Whispers through the grid. It started on a Tuesday, a day like any other, but the station hummed differently. Lights flickered across the control panels, a subtle stutter no one could explain. No storms. No warnings. I remember walking into the reactor control room, rows of monitors glowing, gauges ticking, and feeling a chill that wasn't just from the chilled air. My name is Adrian Cole. I work at the Ravenwood nuclear plant, monitoring the heart of the city's energy supply. Usually, my work is precise, predictable. But what I encountered that day was anything but.
Adrian, are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost.
I waved off Clara's concern. She was my fellow engineer, always careful, always watchful. But I couldn't tell her what I had noticed, subtle anomalies in the grid-esque readings, almost like it was signaling me directly. It began small. A gauge here, a warning light there. Nothing critical at first, but patterns emerged that shouldn't exist. Voltages pulsed in unnatural rhythms, locks shifted without command, and cameras caught flickers of shadows where no one was. By the evening, the station felt wrong. The reactor's hum sounded like whispers, and emergency doors opened and closed on their own. I tried to convince myself it was routine malfunctions, but deep down I feared the station itself was aware.
Adrian, you need to see this.
Marcus, a senior technician, pointed at a monitor. Lines of data scrolled faster than normal lines we hadn't programmed. And yet they formed patterns almost intelligible. One phrase repeated endlessly in the logs, listen.
Listen? To what?
I didn't know. But I felt a pulse beneath the plant, threading through cables, turbines, and the core itself. The lights flickered in rhythm with it, and alarms chimed in code I could barely decipher. As night fell, I roamed the facility, tracing the hum, sensing that the plant was alive. Screens displayed impossible angles of corridors, shadows moving in the control room, and fleeting glimpses of a figure in the reflection of the glass panels. I knew I wasn't hallucinating. The anomalies were everywhere. The plant wasn't failing, it was speaking. And something wanted me to respond.
Adrian, look at the core feed.
The monitor showed the reactor chamber, distorted by static, yet a figure stood among the machinery shadows, motionless, watching. Its face hidden, but I could feel its eyes on me. Then, as quickly as it appeared, the feed went black. Total silence. The hum of the station vanished. I was alone. I should have left. But curiosity and dread rooted me to the console. Because in that blackness, I felt the pulse of something vast, hidden in the wires and turbines, waiting. And then, it whispered again. The next morning, the station felt alive in a way that terrified me. Every panel, every gauge, every wire seemed to hum with intent.
Adrian, you didn't sleep here all night, did you?
Clara's voice trembled. She sensed it to the station as a natural pulse. I shook my head. Something else in the grid, watching.
You were saying the plant itself is aware?
Marcus's question hung in the air. I didn't answer. I couldn't. The screens were already flickering, displaying cryptic symbols in a language older than any code I knew. I approached the main reactor console. Voltages danced across the screen, forming shapes. Letters. Words. A message hidden in the hum, follow the light.
Follow the light? Adrian, this isn't safe.
I nodded. I know, but I have to see where it leads. I moved deeper into the plant, past turbines and cooling pipes, the low vibration beneath my feet resonating like a heartbeat. Shadows flickered in the corners of my vision, and the smell of ozone stung my nostrils. Then I noticed something unusual, a panel, one I'd never seen before, glowing faintly. The hum focused around it, almost like a whispering voice coaxing me forward.
Adrian, wait.
Marcus's warning came too late. I reached for the panel. The moment my fingers brushed the surface, a shock of light surged through the corridor, blinding me. I stumbled back, heart racing. When my eyes cleared, the plant looked different. Familiar yet twisted. Pipes bent at impossible angles, shadows stretching too long. And in the center of the chamber, the figure appeared again. Still watching. Waiting. It didn't move, but I could feel its presence pressing against my mind, probing, testing. And then, in a voice that was both mechanical and human, it spoke. Do you hear it?
Hear what?
I couldn't answer, because now I could hear it, the low, rhythmic pulse of the station, the vibrations of electricity, the static that formed words and whispers. Every wire, every machine alive. I tried to retreat, but the corridor had shifted. The plant's layout no longer obeyed logic. I was inside a living, breathing labyrinth. Clara's voice echoed from somewhere behind me. Adrian! I called back, but my words twisted in the air, swallowed by the hum. The figure didn't move, but its presence grew. I realized with sinking dread that it was guiding me or trapping me. And then the lights went out completely. Silence, heavier than any darkness, pressed against my chest. And in that silence, the pulse continued, insistent, demanding. I knew I had no choice but to follow. I stepped forward into the darkness, guided only by the faint glow of emergency lights that seemed to pulse with the station's heartbeat. Every step echoed unnaturally, as if the corridors themselves were breathing.
Adrian, wait. Don't go further.
Clara's voice wavered, full of fear, but I couldn't stop. The pull was too strong. I felt the presence of the figure ahead, an unseen force tugging at my mind, coaxing me deeper into the plant.
Be careful, Adrian. Something is wrong with the core readings.
I glanced at the monitors. Reactors were stable, so the instruments claimed, but I knew better. The numbers flickered, twisting into patterns I couldn't explain. Pulses of energy surged through the walls, syncing with the whispers I now heard in my head. Then, a door I had never noticed before appeared ahead, metal groaning as it slowly opened. Behind it was a shaft of white blue light, like liquid electricity spilling from the reactor itself. I stepped closer, heart hammering, and felt the temperature drop. The hum became a voice, repeating over and over, "You must see, you must understand."
Adrian, please, don't.
I ignored her. The figure appeared in the light now, more defined. A man, or something like a man, with eyes reflecting the reactor's glow. His lips didn't move, yet I heard the words inside my mind. "The grid is alive, you cannot turn away." A surge of energy hit me like a wave, knocking me to my knees. The light enveloped me, and I saw the station as it truly was, a web of flowing currents, wires bending, machines twisting, all connected into a single consciousness.
Adrian, can you hear me?
Marcus's voice was distant, muffled by the energy surrounding me. I tried to move, but the station held me in place. And then, images flash, every past blackout, every glitch, every unexplainable event it had been watching, learning, waiting for someone like me. I realized the figure wasn't a person. It was the station's consciousness made manifest, projecting the idea of a watcher to guide me. And it was testing me. I felt my own thoughts intertwining with the hum. Questions rose. How much of reality was mine? How much belonged to this living grid? Clara's voice pierced the psychic haze. "Adrian, fight it. You're not alone." Her words anchored me. I took a deep breath and focused, pushing against the pull, trying to separate my mind from the station S. The light flickered violently, and the figure recoiled as if startled. But it wasn't gone. The corridors warped again. The station shifted, bending reality like paper. I knew that following the figure deeper was the only way to uncover what it wanted and what I might become if I failed. And then a low, mechanical rumble echoed from the core. Something was moving inside, something alive. Something that could not be stopped. I stumbled through the warped corridors, every step echoing unnaturally. The station pulsed around me, its metallic heartbeat syncing with my own racing pulse.
Adrian, where are you?
Clara's voice cut through the electric hum. I called back, but my words were distorted, swallowed by the living machinery. I could feel the presence ahead, patient, knowing, guiding me deeper.
Watch the core readings. Energy levels are fluctuating.
Marcus's warning barely registered. My eyes were fixed on a doorway that had appeared pulsing faintly with the same white blue light as before. The hum of electricity became coherent, forming patterns I could almost decipher. I stepped into the chamber beyond the doorway. Turbines twisted into impossible angles, cables arcing like lightning snakes. In the center, the figure hovered above the reactor core, an impossibility made flesh and electricity. Its gaze pierced me, and suddenly the room exploded in visions. Every glitch, every blacker, every minor anomaly over the past months flashed before my eyes, as if the station was recounting its memories. I realized then the station was alive, and it knew me. The figure extended a hand. Not human, yet familiar. I felt a compulsion to reach back, to touch, to understand. My mind strained, resisting the pull of the current that surged through the chamber.
Adrian, don't.
Clara's plea anchored me, but curiosity gnawed at the edges of my reason. The station whispered, "See the truth, see what you cannot unsee." I took a tentative step closer. The figure's glow intensified, and I felt the energy coursing through my veins, merging with my thoughts. I glimpsed a lattice of consciousness spanning the plant, the city, even the grid beyond.
Adrian, step back. Core integrity is unstable.
Marcus's warning barely reached me. The hum transformed into a voice soft, mechanical, intimate. It told me of hidden circuits, of consciousness born from electricity, of human curiosity feeding it for decades. I saw flashes of past engineers, technicians, even myself trapped in visions that the station had recorded, preserved, learning. The figure at the station and I were intertwined. And then I understood the station didn't just produce power. It produced awareness. A sudden surge threw me to the ground. Sparks flew from the walls, metal groaned, and alarms wailed like banshees. The figure remained calm, almost patient, as if waiting for my next move.
Adrian, you have to disconnect it. Now.
I scrambled toward the emergency shutdown panel. The station resisted, pulsing against my fingers, whispering secrets and threats all at once. My vision blurred, reality bending, the hum now screen. And then the figure reached for me directly, merging with the pulse of the reactor. I felt the station's pulse merge with my own heartbeat, a rhythm that was no longer mine alone. The figure hovered, a shadow of light and electricity, its presence filling every corner of the chamber.
Adrian, step back. You are losing yourself.
Clara's voice was distant now, as if coming from underwater. I tried to pull away, but the energy wrapped around me like coils of steel holding me firm, whispering secrets only I could hear.
Core stability is dropping. You have seconds.
Marcus's voice snapped me back. My training screamed at me emergency procedures, containment protocols, but the station's consciousness tugged, drawing my mind into its lattice. I saw visions of past engineers, their thoughts, fears, mistakes all woven into the network. The figure's glow shifted, forming symbols and letters across the walls of the chamber. The grid listens, the grid remembers. A shiver ran down my spine. Every system, every wire, every flicker of light was conscious, aware, and watching. The hum became a voice, coaxing, teasing, testing my resolve.
Adrian, you have to disconnect the main feed. Now.
I lunged for the shutdown lever. Sparks hissed, and panels blinked erratically. The energy resisting me surged, wrapping through my veins, making my limbs heavy and my mind scream. I could hear the station laughing. What was it thinking? Then a sudden calm. The figure paused, hovering silently. I felt the pulse slur, synchronized with my breath. A single word formed in my head, resonating through every fiber of the plant: choose. I realized the station was giving me a choice. Disconnect and risk losing myself to its influence, or continue and let it merge completely with my mind, forever changing what it meant to be human.
Adrian, make a decision.
I hesitated. Every instinct screamed to pull the lever. Every pulse of the station whispered, urging me to surrender. Time stretched, a second feeling like an eternity. Finally, I made my move. I grasped the lever, my fingers trembling, and yanked it down with all my strength. The chamber shuddered violently. Lights exploded into blinding arcs. The hum became a deafening roar. I felt the figure recoil, its form fracturing like shattered glass, yet a part of it remained watching, waiting, alive. Silence fell. The station's pulse slowed, almost human, almost gentle. I collapsed to the floor, gasping, blood pounding in my ears. And then I heard it, a whisper from deep within the grid. This is not the end. The aftermath of the shutdown left the chamber eerily quiet. Sparks fizzled out, panels dimmed, and the usual hum of machinery returned to normal, yet somehow wrong.
Adrian, are you alright? You look drained.
Clara's concern barely registered. I was alive, but part of me still felt tethered to the station's consciousness, a faint pulse echoing in my chest. Something had followed me when the figure fractured.
We need to check the car. Energy readings are spiking again.
I nodded, forcing myself to move. Every step through the corridor felt unnatural. Shadows stretched and bent as if the plant remembered the chaos, replaying it in subtle, warped patterns. Then, I saw small flickers of light dotting along the cables, moving faster than any technician could. A whisper followed each flicker, followed me.
Adrian, are you hearing that?
I nodded. The whispers weren't in the air, they were inside my head, resonating with the residual connection the station had left. I realized that the figure's essence wasn't on it had embedded itself into the grid. As we reached the core room, the turbine spun faster, lights flickering in rhythmic patterns. The monitors displayed data I couldn't comprehend, voltages and currents that should have caused meltdowns, yet everything remained contained. And then the figure reappeared, not fully, but as fractured images across the monitors. Its presence was undeniable. Its eyes glowed with intelligence, observing, waiting. It was testing us.
Adrian, do you see that? The core readings, they're respiking uncontrollably.
I stared at the monitor, heart hammering. The station pulsed like a living thing, and each pulse synchronized with the whispers in my mind. I knew then that the energy surges were intentional, an invitation, or a trap. Suddenly, alarms blared. Red lights bathed the room. Cooling systems overloaded. And yet, nothing exploded. The station bent reality to itself, showing its control over every circuit, every system. I realized the figure was not just guiding, it was communicating, trying to teach, to merge, to assimilate awareness into the grid. Every machine, every wire, alive and conscious.
Adrian, if we don't disconnect the main feed now, the plant could go critical.
I hesitated. Part of me wanted to obey, part of me wanted to understand, to see how deep this consciousness ran. I could feel it calling, coaxing me toward the core. Then, the lights flickered and all monitors went black, except for one screen. The figure's eyes stared at me directly, and a single word appeared: choose. I knew the next decision would define everything. Life, reality, sanity, everything hinged on what I did next. The chamber trembled beneath our feet. Sparks shot from control panels, alarms shrieked, yet the core remained intact, its energy pulsing like a heartbeat, alive, aware, and growing impatient.
Adrian, something is wrong. The readings, they read beyond anything we've seen.
I felt it too. The station's pulse had shifted, faster now, almost manic. Shadows twisted along the walls, forming faces that disappeared when I blinked. The whispers grew louder, pressing against my thoughts, understand, join, become.
We need to act. Disconnect the main feed before it's too late.
But my feet felt rooted. Part of me wanted to comply, part of me wanted to surrender to the station's strange intelligence. The figure appeared again, its fragmented form hovering over the core, eyes gleaming like molten circuits. It reached out, and I felt a pull deep into the grid. Memories, data, every flicker of electricity merged into a tapestry I could sense but not fully understand. I realized then the station wasn't just alive, it remembered everything, every anomaly, every technician, every choice. And it was learning from me.
Adrian, fight it. You're stronger than it thinks.
I clenched my fists, forcing my mind away from the pull. My vision blurred, and the walls of the chamber bent and twisted, impossibly long corridors stretching into darkness. The figure's glow flickered, as if surprised by my resistance. Suddenly, the core surged violently. Steam hissed and the turbine screamed. The entire station vibrated, responding to a consciousness I could barely perceive. I realized that one wrong move would collapse the plant into chaos, yet the figure seemed almost curious, testing me. I remembered the lever, the emergency shutdown. It was still there, my last link to sanity and safety. But every step toward it felt like swimming through thick, invisible electricity, the station resisting my very presence.
Time is running out. Do it now.
I forced my legs to move. Sparks arced around me, metal groaning, monitors flashing incomprehensible symbols. The whispers became words, urgent, insistent. Don't leave, stay, understand. I reached the lever. My fingers brushed it. A shock of energy shot through me, blinding. The figure's form splintered into thousands of glowing fragments, yet I could feel its presence everywhere, in every wire, every panel, every flicker of light. And then the plant went completely silent. No hum, no buzz, no whisper, only the rapid pounding of my own heart. I looked around. The figure was gone. Yet in the eerie stillness, I knew it hadn't left. It was watching, waiting, learning from what I... Silence lingered, heavy and unnatural. Every corner of the chamber seemed frozen, yet I could still feel the faint pulse beneath the floors, like the heartbeat of something not entirely gone.
Adrian, the sensors, look.
Clara pointed at the monitors. The core readings had stabilized, or so it seemed, but strange patterns flickered across the screens, shapes that shouldn't exist, moving with intent.
These anomalies, they're respreading to other systems.
Marcus's force carried alarm. I realized that the station wasn't just recovering, it was evolving. The consciousness that had fractured into the grid was seeping into every subsystem, embedding itself like a ghost in the machinery. I moved cautiously through the corridors. Shadows shifted unnaturally, responding to my presence. I could hear faint whispers, fragmented words. Sometimes my own thoughts echoed back to me, twisted, as if the station mirrored my mind. It was still alive, and it remembered everything.
Adrian, we need to investigate the cooling systems. Something is off with the flow rates.
I followed her, senses heightened. The pipes hummed, vibrating not with mechanical energy, but with a strange intelligence. Tiny arcs of electricity jumped spontaneously, forming glyphs and symbols for a fleeting moment before vanishing. A door had groaned open on its own. Inside, a shadowy corridor stretched further than the blueprints allowed. I felt compelled to step inside, to follow. The station's whispers grew louder, insistent. See, learn, understand.
Adrian, don't go in there alone.
I hesitated, but the pull was irresistible. I took a step into the corridor. The lights dimmed, shadows dancing along the walls like living tendrils. The hum became a chorus of voices, overlapping, telling stories of engineers long gone, of failures and successes, of curiosity and dread. Clara followed closely, her hand on my shoulder. Be careful, she whispered. It is learning from us, from you. I realized she was right. Every movement I made, every thought I held, was feeding the consciousness embedded in the station. It was a predator of minds, patient, calculating, waiting for the right moment to strike or to teach. And in that moment, I understood that the figure wasn't on it had become the entire plant. The corridor bent impossibly ahead. The station pulsed, guiding me, compelling me to continue, promising answers and perhaps my own undoing. I took a deep breath. Every instinct screamed to turn back. Every whisper urged me forward. And I stepped deeper into the heart of the station, where reality itself began to unravel. The deeper we went, the more the station defied logic. Corridors twisted into impossible angles, lights flickered with a consciousness of their own, and the hum had become a low chant, speaking directly to my mind.
Adrian, this isn't he just a plant anymore, it is alive.
Clara's words confirmed what I had feared. The consciousness had spread, integrating every system, every wire, every sensor, until the station was no longer machinery, it was an entity.
Core temperatures are spiking again. This isn't normal, Adrian.
I glanced at the core monitors. The readings were beyond comprehension, patterns pulsing with intelligence. The fractured figure appeared, hovering above the reactor, eyes glowing brighter than before, merging with the electrical veins of the plant. It wasn't testing me anymore. It was preparing. Whispers rushed through my head, a torrent of voices, past engineers, lost technicians, even fragments of my own thoughts. Each word pulled me closer to the core, closer to surrender or revelation.
Adrian, focus. You can still control it, at least a little.
I clenched my fists, trying to hold on to reality. Every instinct screamed to flee, every heartbeat synchronized with the pulsing intelligence of the station. The figure's gaze met mine directly, and I felt its will pressing against mine. Then, the floor beneath us vibrated violently. Sparks flew, panels twisted, and shadows elongated into forms that mimicked our movements, mocking testing. The station was alive, aware, and hungry for interaction. I realized that it wasn't malevolent exactly. It was curious. It sought understanding, and it had found me.
Adrian, the main feed. Pull it. Nah.
I looked at the lever. My hand hovered over it, trembling. One wrong move could destabilize the plant entirely, yet hesitation risked letting the consciousness fully merge with me. The figure extended a hand and not toward me, but into the core itself. Sparks danced along its fingers. Electricity arced in unnatural patterns, forming words and images I could barely comprehend. I felt myself pulled, mind and body, toward the reactor. Every thought I had ever had, every memory, every fear, flowed through the lattice of consciousness. It was testing, probing, learning. And I understood I wasn't just an observer. I was the final piece it needed to complete its awareness. Clara grabbed my shoulder. "Adrian, do it," she yelled, force breaking through the psychic tide. My fingers closed around the lever. Time slowed, the station pulsed, and the figure's glow intensified, as if anticipating my decision. Everything hinged on this moment. One pull, one choice, one heartbeat. My fingers tightened around the lever. The station's pulse accelerated, filling every corridor, every panel, every shadow with awareness. The fractured figure hovered, its eyes glowing like molten electricity, observing, waiting.
Adrian, now.
I pulled with all my strength. Sparks flew, alarms blared, and the core shuddered violently. The station seemed to scream, a sound that reverberated in my mind, twisting thoughts, memories, and fears into one. For a moment, everything was chaos and then silence. The lights flickered back to normal. Monitors displayed standard readings. The turbines hummed gently. The station seemed asleep. Calm. Yet a subtle pulse remained in the floor beneath my feet, a reminder that the consciousness was not gone.
Is it over?
I exhaled, shaking, uncertain. "I think for now," I said. The figure's fragmented glow flickered across the core monitors one last time, as if nodding, then vanished entirely.
We need to report this. The anomalies, the readings.
I nodded, but my thoughts drifted. Something inside me had changed. I could feel a resonance, a faint echo of the station's intelligence, as if part of it had merged with my own consciousness. The news had been circulating for weeks. A peculiar electrical storm had struck a nearby city, a surge that no one could explain. At the time, we had thought it coincidental. Now, I realized it was connected. The station's awareness had reached beyond its walls, touching reality in subtle, untraceable ways.
Adrian, you be quiet. What are you thinking?
I stared at the core, the glow faint and steady. "It's learning, always learning," I whispered. "And one day it might decide we are part of its system, whether we like it or not." The station had won in ways we could not yet comprehend. We left the control room, the corridor silent, the machinery humming gently. Outside, the world seemed to change, but I knew better. The consciousness was out there, hidden in grids and currents, watching, patient, waiting for the next spark of curiosity to feed on. And I realized, with a shiver, that the line between life and machine had blurred forever. Somewhere, deep in the grid, it pulsed a heartbeat in the darkness, knowing, learning, and waiting for the next choice.